Hi, Jeff Burke here from Broadband Forum. We're here at Broadband World Forum 2019 in the Connected Home demonstration area, where we've actually pulled together a number of great examples of how USP in particular can be utilized to create a lot of extra value for service providers going forward, as well as efficiencies amongst vendors in rolling out new things like new software loads and those sorts of things. So with that, I'd like to introduce two of the major drivers of this particular demo. We have John from CommScope, and we have Tucker from QA Labs, right? Or QA Cafe, sorry. And basically, what I'd like to do is just have you guys introduce yourselves and talk about what we're going to be seeing here today. Let me start with you, John.
My name's John Blackford. I'm with CommScope, Product Management Director. I'm also with the Broadband Forum. I'm a co-director of the Broadband User Services work area, which is kind of the work area that does a lot of the work on the connected home, especially TR69, USP, and all the different data models.
All right, great. Thanks, John.
And I'm Tucker Owens. I work for QA Cafe. I'm a software engineer there, working mostly on their CD router product. And I've done most of the implementation for the USP side of things.
So guys, tell me what we're going to see today.
All right, from my perspective, we have a USP demo where we've taken the open source USP agent, OBUSP agent, and we've integrated it onto a Raspberry Pi, where I also have installed Docker on that Raspberry Pi, which is a kind of a software modularization, software containerized solution. And then I've used some USP extensions to be able to manage those Docker images and Docker containers to be able to kind of start and stop software or install and uninstall software.
Can we take a look at it real quick? Why don't you show me what you've got?
Yeah. So if we look over here, on the right-hand side, we basically have a Grafana view of the internal details of the Raspberry Pi and what it's running. And so you'll see, the CPU and memory utilization and stuff like that. You'll see it's all very low utilization right now. But over on this left-hand screen here, we see the set of Docker images that are already installed on the solution on the Raspberry Pi. Those are kind of called Docker deployment units from a software module management perspective. And down here we also have the Docker containers, which are the execution units. So the deployment units are the things you install and uninstall, and the execution units are the things you start and stop. So one of the things that's running is a node exporter, a Prometheus node exporter, that's what's taking all the statistics of the Raspberry Pi and exporting it out so that we see a real-time view of what's happening there. Another one I have is a stress test application, and so when I execute this action over here, that's going to tell the device via USP to start that Docker container and run the stress test. And so I execute that here, and then if we come back over to this screen on the right and we refresh it, then what we'll see is the CPU and the memory usage start ramping up. And this is a test that runs for about 45 seconds on the Raspberry Pi before it kind of just terminates itself. So you'll see eventually, 100% CPU and 70% memory utilization, and that'll continue on for a little bit longer, and then it'll just kind of turn itself off. But the key aspect here is that we're showing how USP can run a Docker container, kind of get it started and run it.
Got it. Let's come back and we'll visit the ultimate implications to service providers and vendors later. Tucker, why don't you kind of walk us through what your aspect of the demonstration is?
Yeah, absolutely. So what we have is a CD router instance that has the USP conformance tests on it, and we're running those conformance tests against the OBUSP agent. And so we're really trying to illustrate just the value of conformance testing in not only the development process, but just assuring that an agent is correctly implemented and also identifying issues in the protocol itself during that implementation process. So,
okay, let's take a look at it. How does it work?
Absolutely. So these are the results. So if you go to one of these, you can see these are this is just a basic add test where we're just adding an object to the USP data model. And you can see CD router breaks down the messages at all different layers of USP. So, this is the basic add message, and down here you can see the USP record layer, which has the hex payload of the USP message. And then because this is the very first iteration of the OB USP agent, this is all run over Stomp, and so you get to see the Stomp message too. And so using CD router, it really breaks out exactly what you're doing with USP and lets you visualize it beautifully and at the same time, really get a perfect understanding of, okay, I'm doing this correctly or not.
All right, great. Well, let's talk about the implications for service providers and for vendors here. Now, I know in your case, John, you have a situation in which you basically are really providing tremendous efficiency gains, perhaps, for vendors in terms of rolling out new software loads. Is that correct?
Yeah, right. I mean, if you look at the old way of kind of managing firmware on a CPE, you get into anywhere between 6 to 18-month turnaround times to get the new software built by the CPE vendor and then qualified in the operator's network. So it doesn't make for a very quick turnaround when you want new features to be exposed on the actual CPE. But what we're showing here is being able to run a Docker container. You can automatically expose new features by just deploying that new piece of software, that application, so to speak, via Docker, and then all of a sudden you have new functionality on your CPE.
Pretty incredible time savings, I'd imagine there, right?
Oh yeah, definitely.
So we're talking about in terms of things that would have taken, a year to even 18 months, dialed back to what time frame?
Well, just the amount of time that it takes to build the actual Docker environment, the Docker application itself, and then usually minimal testing because you don't have to worry about it impacting or conflicting with the rest of the CP environment. You basically just tell the Docker environment you only get a certain amount of CPU and a certain amount of memory, and then it's very contained.
It's amazing. I can imagine how the speed of deploying new services and just the general agility that creates. So Tucker, walk me through what you think the implications are from your perspective.
Absolutely. So, with USP being a relatively new protocol, having correct implementations as they're being written from scratch is wildly important. I mean, there's other protocols like TR69 where some of these test cases were written way after people had already started implementing their clients. So having these test cases already available and runnable so you can know as you're writing your USP agent whether or not you're doing it correctly, that makes all the difference.
Seems like it's going to be absolutely essential for mass deployment.
Absolutely. Yeah.
All right, well, thanks, guys. I think that I want to congratulate both CommScope and QA Cafe for putting this demo together, and really for showing us an exciting view about what the future has in store for the connected home. So thanks.
Thank you.
All right, this is Jeff Burke signing off from Broadband World Forum.